Hello and welcome to Emerging Aurora's Off the Cuff podcast. This podcast brings you the inspiring stories behind a lot of businesses located in the Aurora community. And I'm your host, Vern Cunningham. And today we've got something really special for you. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking for insight or just love discovering the talent and passion shaping the town of Aurora, this episode is one of loving and caring. Our guest today, Serena Thompson from the Lighthouse Learning and Development Center, is bringing help through education to neurodiverse individuals. Welcome, Serena.
Thank you so much, Vern.
Let's hear a little bit about you.
Okay. I'm a mom, really. My son Daniel was diagnosed with autism 16 years ago. He's 18 and a half now. And we went through the same process that all families go through. You know your child is going to have a diagnosis, but when somebody says the words, it's very different. So we went into the ABA therapies. He spent some time in public school. That didn't work out for him. So then we did some time at home. And while he had gains, there was no social opportunities there. And so we put him in a small private school. And on the 24th of November, 2014, the headmistress called me and told me that if I punished him, I would fix him.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it was kind of news to me because I didn't know that my son was broken. I was with York Regional Police at the time. I had an extensive career as a dispatcher with York Regional Police, who were extraordinarily supportive of this decision. So I went home that night and sat with my best friend and just announced that I was going to open a school. And everyone was kind of like, oh, okay, take your minute. So that was November 24th, 2014. The business was incorporated on the 11th of December, 2014, and we opened the doors in September of 2015. This is coming up on our 10th year. My son, I was sick and tired of trying to convince people that he belonged in the community just like everybody else. And the last time I checked, there is no baseline for normal. The last time I checked, we all learn differently, diagnosis or not. And I was done convincing people that he was worth it and just decided that we were going to do this. And I knew that I wasn't the only family going through this. Over the last 10 years, we've helped over 150 families, and we are now going into adult services as well. So we're going to service across the lifespan.
Good for you. I know the term what is it again?
Neurodiverse.
Yes, neurodiverse individual is a broad term.
Yes.
What is under that umbrella?
You have autism, ADHD, anxiety. Anxiety is a huge comorbidity with autism. You would have Down syndrome, any kind of learning disability, intellectual disability, mental health. Mental health is a huge thing coming out of COVID. So it is a very broad term. But at the end of the day, and I understand there's a place for it, but we're all human.
Absolutely.
And, it's just we think differently. Some people think differently. So.
What's interesting is the premise you're working on has been proven to extend the life of people that do have issues, neuro issues. And I have a nephew who is now probably in his mid-40s, who 40 years ago would have been warehoused at a young age and would have died in his late teens, early 20s. And now he's 45, doing well. He's got a part-time job at Canadian Tire, and he's in the Special Olympics every year.
That's
so
amazing.
He's got a great life. Yeah. And I'm aware of a number of people that have similar issues moving forward, and the community has really embraced them and worked with them to make them contributing individuals in our society.
Yeah.
We see it in Aurora. We see it places like the Welcome Table, where we have neurodiverse people helping out, putting the bread together and doing it. And I volunteer at the Welcome Table, helping people that have different degrees of issues in their lives. And unfortunately, they don't go there because it's a free meal. They go there because they don't have an option.
That's correct.
And what you're doing, I think, has to be commended, because we are all here, I believe, to help our fellow man.
Yes.
And we are judged at the end of our lives by how good we were to each other, not how much money we've amassed, not how much property we have, but how we've treated each other. And I'm really proud to have met you and to know that you are doing this to move it forward.
Thank you so much.
Now, Aurora.
Yeah.
Why did you choose Aurora?
Initially, I chose Aurora, and I'm going to be completely honest. I took a map and picked really dead center of the York region because we wanted to be accessible to so many families. It was a decision that I didn't realize was going to be as profound as it has been. You talk about things happening for a reason, and really it was just proximity. But what we have found in this community is unbelievable. People don't look at my son or the other students at Lighthouse or anybody who is neurodiverse as if they don't belong. They welcome people of any type. So, and what we're finding now, as we are building this adult program, the organizations and the businesses in the town of Aurora, when we're approaching them to have conversations about the Career Connections program we're doing, we've paired with the L Center for Excellence in Florida. We've not had one organization turn up their nose at us. We've not had one organization tell us it's not a good idea. And while we completely understand and respect that the program might not necessarily fit with every business, all the businesses that we're talking to are trying to find a way. And that says something about the community. And what we know is that isn't typical across the board. Not all communities are welcoming like that. And it's not coming from a place of charity. They aren't doing this because it's a charitable act. These organizations are doing this and including these individuals because they see their value and they see how important they are to the community and what they can give back. And to me, that makes all the difference. I don't want somebody looking at my son and feeling sorry for him. I don't want them looking at him and giving him charity. I want them looking at him and saying, what you are going to bring to my organization or my community is valuable. And that's what we get in the town of Aurora. And it doesn't matter if we're walking into No Frills or we're walking into Hearst Bakery or we're going out for lunch to State and Maine. People see our kids in our community and they welcome them. And I think people in Aurora see how their lives are enriched by these individuals.
It gives them depth.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people are not exposed to.
No.
In the company I had, we hired quite a number of people with neurodiverse challenges in life. And they were great workers, and they just felt that they were contributing, which they were, gave them a sense of pride, a reason to go on with their lives.
Yeah.
It was win-win for everybody. And what I found is some of our employees had never been exposed to anyone different than them.
Yes.
And it was eye-opening for them. We had a few people that were deaf and mute, and partially mute, and they didn't realize that the deaf, when they speak, the ones that are not mute can speak, they almost shout.
Yes.
And they're not shouting at the people, it's how they communicate.
Yeah.
And a lot of the employees learned that, and it made life better for them as well, because now these people weren't threatening. They were just like them, and that was just how they communicated. So,
and I've heard, people say, when you look at, take my son, for example. My son has multiple comorbidities to his autism. He has health issues, and he is out there wanting to work and wanting to be a part of the community and very motivated. It's really hard when you look at an individual like that who is out there trying every day. It's hard to say, my life is horrible. It creates a brand new perspective to being thankful and appreciating what you have. And we've heard from organizations that when they are surrounded by our community, it changes the climate of their organization and it changes their employees. And employees themselves are saying it changes them. That, when's the last time you saw somebody so excited to put price tags on an item, right? Over and over again.
Yes.
And that does something for us. We tend to live in a space where going to work is challenging and we don't want to go to work and we'd rather stay in bed and do these things. And to be exposed to people that are just so appreciative of the small things. In the province of Ontario, 97,000 people have some kind of neurodiversity, autism specifically. 86% of those are unemployed. 62% express a desire to work.
Yes.
62% of individuals want to have a job. And the only reason they can't is that sometimes it just takes a little bit more time to include them. And that's what we're trying to target is those individuals, because everybody has a right to do something that they enjoy.
Absolutely. And, it enriches the whole community as well, because it makes the community more accepting of people that are different than them. I'm not talking about any mental challenges. I'm talking about physical appearances too, as the background, where they come from. And
Absolutely.
So on. When you're recognizing that community is made up of different types of people, it makes everyone happier living here.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because I think the thing that sets Aurora apart as well is that people in Aurora want to learn. They want to learn about the differences in all of the communities. It's not just about accepting. It's not just about everyone is a different community and we're going to accept them. I want to learn. What can you teach me and bring to my life from your experiences that I don't have? And I think that's what Aurora does. It's not good enough to be inclusive, but let's gain knowledge.
Absolutely. And knowledge is power.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's interesting. I read an article not too long ago that said that Canada has the highest percentage of college-educated people. And I was blown away by that. That's part of the G7. I don't know about everything else, but in the G7. And I never knew that. And it means that we have a very upwardly mobile society.
Yes.
And one based on people that have spent the time and effort to get educated and to learn.
Well, and I think learning's everything, and learning doesn't stop at your academia and it doesn't stop at the books you read. You have to learn about the people around you, because if you're going to contribute back at all, you need to know what that's going to look like.
Absolutely. And I've lived here for a number of years, almost your age. But anyway, we won't go into that. And I love Aurora. I've been here. I've been involved in a lot of service clubs in the town. And it's just a wonderful place to be.
It is. And, to see people out and about all the time. We hosted the Aurora Chamber of Commerce After 5 last Thursday. And it starts to feel like your friends are coming.
Yes.
It starts to feel like it's less about a business opportunity or a networking event. And it's more like, we're hosting a 2-hour cocktail party for our friends. And I don't feel like it's like that in any other community.
Unfortunately, I think you're right, but I don't have a lot of knowledge of other communities myself. I mean, I've lived all across the country, but I was much younger then. I was more interested in keeping the family fed and housed.
Yes.
That I wasn't aware of what was around me. But in those days, there was very little around you. We'd warehouse people, as I mentioned before, instead of looking after them. We'd segregate them from the classroom instead of including them in the classroom, where children without any issues could learn that other people could be just as good as they are in different ways.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. You're not better or worse, you're just different.
Well, and it's interesting you say that. My son was in public school for a very brief period of time, but on his first day, I asked the principal to do something, and I was amazed I had been the first person to ask. I said, I'd like to come into the classroom. He was in grade 1. I'd like Daniel removed, and I would like to explain my son to his friends. These are all six-year-olds.
Yeah, pretty young.
Yeah, and I said, I want them to ask all the questions in the world, because asking questions doesn't come from a place of ignorance. It comes from a place of knowledge. And what we found was that when the kids were given an opportunity to ask questions about his noises or the movements he makes, he became less scary to them.
Yes.
There wasn't an unknown there. And, I think that goes back to what we were talking about, that we have to stop thinking that people are asking questions from a place of ignorance, because they're not. They're asking questions to learn. And once we have the information, then we're good.
Absolutely. And I have firsthand knowledge of that as well from what we had at our company. So it's quite good. Now, starting an organization, 10 years, long time.
Yeah.
But there's ups and downs during all that time frame. You get days where you pull out your hair and you wonder what's happening. And other days you're floating on a cloud.
Yeah.
What's been the most surprising challenge that you've faced over the past 10 years?
Leading people, I think, has been the most surprising thing. I've learned a significant amount over 10 years about people and leading them and mentoring them. You look at organizations and you think it's easy. The other thing is I've learned that there are a lot of people on this planet who are mission oriented, who believe in the service industry. And that's what we are. We are education, but we're servicing these families every single day. And I don't know that I understood the amount of compassion out there for people. I wasn't given a choice. I was given a son with autism. The people that work for me make a choice every single day to come out and enhance the lives of these families. And that, to me, I think, was not just heartwarming, but surprising. I don't know that if I didn't have Daniel, this would have been my path. I worked for York Regional Police and I loved it. But I can tell you that every person that has contributed to Daniel's success over the last 16 years could call me at 3:00 in the morning and I would get on a plane for them. That's how significant their contributions are to these families. And I think that surprised me, that, how the ability to love a child and a family that you didn't bear and want to see them succeed.
Well, I look at that, and based on your comments, I think those are the true heroes in our community.
Yeah.
The people that do it because out of a love of teaching and making the lives better for people.
Yes.
That's got to be heroic.
It is.
And I congratulate you on finding these great people.
Oh,
helping you on the journey.
They're fantastic.
Now, if you could collaborate with other business leaders in Aurora or York region, what would it be and what would you love to create together?
So can I actually talk about something we're doing right now?
Anything you want.
Okay.
This is your podcast.
So we decided to collaborate with, so we formed a partnership with the L Center in Florida. They are the world-renowned adult services. So we're replicating them in the town of Aurora. And one of those programs is called Career Connections. And so it kind of acts a little bit like a co-op opportunity. It's a 13-week program where we pair with organizations in the community and we send a full-time job coach with our participant into the community, into that workforce for 10 weeks. And what we're trying to do is build an individual's experience and build an individual's resume to get them employed.
Right.
And we just solidified a partnership with Flow Water.
Oh, good for you.
Yes. And
Congratulations.
we were over there and sitting with Heba was unbelievable. It was kind of one of those experiences. I've had quite a few out-of-body experiences. We've also, we're doing a partnership with Dollar Tree. And I'm sitting there going, these are massive organizations. You look at Flow, Flow is all over the place. We have Flow here. The people that they have representing their organization are huge. And for them to think what we're doing is important is unbelievable. And so that was a big one. Flow Water was a huge one. Is there another organization in the town of Aurora? I really want to partner and target with other grassroots organizations who started the way we did, who, had something that was important to them and started out. But I know I'm having a hard time hiding my excitement with Flow and
No, I think companies like that are jewels, jewels in our communities that make everything work properly. And I commend you on finding such a good company to support and to be a partner with.
Yeah, they're amazing. If there was one more, my other dream company would be New Roads, and I'm working on that hard.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Well, I'm also involved with the Aurora Whiskey Society. And,
Okay.
And we do the South Lake wine, whiskey, and fashion every 2 years that they
So you
hold.
can't go wrong with wine and whiskey.
No, a little bit of food too.
There you
But
go.
New Roads were one of the heavy
Were they?
sponsors of that. And
Okay.
they're fabulous people.
Yeah,
They really help the community and they're there to help. So
that's what I've heard.
that's nothing wrong with that. Stay on it.
Oh, we're on it.
Let me ask you a question, and
Please.
this is just from my background.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a role here for either the town or the Chamber of Commerce to try to make partnerships for enterprises such as yours?
So we're working with the Aurora Chamber of Commerce, and they've been amazing. They're going to be pushing out what we're doing to their members. We're doing a write-up, and it's going to go in the newsletter that they do. I think most definitely there's a role for the town of Aurora. You know, they have so many jobs available, and we need to look outside of the regular scope. You know, one of the examples that we use was, you know, who sweeps the floor? You know, our participants can do those things. I think that this is a huge opportunity for the town of Aurora to say, this is an amazing program that we're going to get involved with. One of the things that we talk about a lot with our participants in our community is their loyalty to a job. You know, my son will get his job and he will remain in that for the rest of his life. And I think that it needs to be said for that. So I think that, you know, anything with the town facilities or rec facilities or at the town office sorting mail, there's so many opportunities that our participants and our community could be involved in. Absolutely.
Well, maybe the Parks and Recreation Department
sure.
could have a mentorship program
Yes.
with the people that work in that department to
Exactly.
bring a friend to work for a day or something.
Yeah,
Just to expose them to the possibilities of doing things in the community.
that's right.
And they don't have to be massive things. You don't have to build
No.
some skyscrapers. You just
No.
have to do little things that bring you the satisfaction.
Well, it's interesting you say that. We were in a restaurant talking about the program, and the manager was like, I'm not really sure if there's anything here. And I said, who wraps your cutlery in the napkin? And he looked at me and he said, oh my goodness, you know, my bar staff do it and not their favorite thing in the world. And I said, my son would do that every day for the rest of his life and be extraordinarily happy to do it.
Yeah. And do it with precision.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you know, we're not looking at big things. We're looking at things that are meaningful, that matter, that the organization requires to move forward. And that's what we're looking at.
Well, it's the market is there. It's
Yes.
just a question of finding out where it is and
That's it.
having people help you and support you. But I think you're in the right community for that anyway.
Absolutely. And I'm learning that. You know, I knew we were in a really great community in Aurora, but since we've launched this program and we're working on it, it's unbelievable.
I think in time, Serena, you can end up having more work than you have people ready to work.
I cannot wait for that time.
That'll come. That'll
That's
come.
it.
So you mentioned that. What piece of advice would you have to anyone starting or growing an enterprise in Aurora?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I would have is don't do it unless it's truly something you're passionate about. That's what keeps you going every day. And find people that can mentor you. I have probably one of the greatest mentors around, and I have learned so much from him. I think the idea that we can do it on our own is very far-fetched. You have to find really good people that believe in what you're doing and believe in your mission and are as passionate as you are, and you need to stick with them and learn from them. And my biggest thing is, and I say this all the time, I always want to be the stupidest person at the table. Because if I think that way, I'm going to sit down to learn.
Absolutely.
and not just to educate.
You know, a lot of times I was talking to my son about this podcast. He's in Los Angeles and he's an animator for DreamWorks right now. He's worked for Disney as well and so on. And he says, you know, Dad, he said, what do you think is the reason for a lot of people's success? And I said, you know what? I said, it's luck. He says, what do you mean luck? I said, well, a lot of people get opportunities and they never follow through with the opportunities. And they're always there. So you have to be lucky enough to see what it is and to see how you can succeed at it. And then you have to be lucky enough to realize that people working with you are the ones that'll give you success, not you by yourself. And you've just reinforced that as well, is that we're all in this together. You know, people forget that if you go into a restaurant, you have serving staff that you see, but you have the chefs that you don't see that you need. You have the bar staff that you don't necessarily see, but you need. You need all these links in the chain to have a good dining experience. And it doesn't happen by just someone having the talent to be a chef by himself. They have to run a business. They have to know how to clean the place properly so you don't have the Board of Health giving you issues and so on and so forth. So it's quite interesting. It's very collaborative.
It's like what you read in all the leadership books that say, if you are a good leader, you don't have to do anything to make yourself look good except make your team look good.
Yes.
Because if your team looks good,
You look good.
you inevitably look good.
Absolutely true. Well, Serena, I don't know what else to say. I'm so happy to have met you.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry that Brian didn't introduce us at the event.
I know. Well, how many events have we been at?
Oh, and you would never know. But this is a small town, so we'll meet again.
Yes.
That could be a song. But anyway,
There you
we won't get into that. Serena, thank you very much. It's really been a pleasure, and I can honestly say that. And if ever you think that I can be of assistance to you, I'll give you my contact information
I would love that.
after. But you're always welcome. I've been in this town for over 35 years, so I may be able to help you. And if I ever can, I'd love to do so.
I would love that. And I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Brian and anyone that's listening. Our guys love visitors. They love giving tours. So if you ever wanted to stop by, please, please do so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Serena.
you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.